How would you react if you saw someone pull out a gun right in front of you while in school? Because one day, when I was in school, this actually happened. And you'll never believe why someone did this and what ended up happening to them when the school day ended. It all started during lunch. Everyone's in the cafeteria ready to eat, and our school had two options to serve. Option A, chicken nuggets that we all know aren't real chicken and are somehow soggy and crispy at the same time. Option B, pizza that would make an Italian say, "Mamma mia!" Luckily, my mom always made my lunch, so I didn't have to worry about eating whatever the heck was in that stuff. But during lunch every day, me and my friends would always sit in the exact same spot, the far right-hand corner of the cafeteria. So me and my friends are just sitting at this table like any other day, yapping our heads off probably about how beautiful LeBron is, when suddenly, the air in the room changes. It starts with someone smacking their lunch tray on the table super loudly, so the whole cafeteria flinches. Everyone turns around to see what just made that noise, and that's when we see two guys near the vending machines all up in each other's faces. I don't know how their argument started, but they were clearly mad at each other. They're shoving each other, going, "Say that again, do something about it." So people start forming a circle around them to watch what's going on. So we're all watching this argument between these two guys unfold, holding our cameras up just in case the next school fight is about to happen, even though no one ever ends up getting a good video of it anyway. When one of the kids in the argument shoves the other guy into the vending machine so hard that the Skittles started to dance. The guy looks shaken up for a second, and after looking around realizing that he's just been embarrassed in front of the whole school, he decides he's not gonna let that slide. So he unzips his backpack, scans the room like he's checking for witnesses, and pulls something out that I've never seen in real life before. Only Call of Duty. What was it? A gun. There's a half second where we all just freeze before thinking about what we just saw, and then chaos happens. Screams coming from all over, but this time, not because of the terrifying cafeteria food, and everyone is scattering as fast and as far as they can. Benches topple, trays fly. Even the lunch lady, who always seemed to be moving in slow motion, drops her ladle and starts sprinting like an NFL wide receiver. One of the teachers that supervises lunch is saying, "Get to the nearest room, now!" The PA coughs to life and says, "Lockdown. This is a lockdown. Teachers, secure your rooms. Students, get into the nearest classroom. This is not a drill." I grab my backpack like it's bulletproof, and suddenly, I'm thinking I'm Lamine Yamal dribbling through defenders with the way I'm weaving through the crowds, just trying to get to somewhere safe. The hallway turns into a river, and doors fly open. Teachers are snatching kids by their hoodie strings, their backpacks, whatever they can get, and they're yanking them inside their classrooms. The Spanish teacher is waving for kids to come into her classroom like, "Andale, andale!" Someone slips on chocolate milk and just gets hauled over by everyone else. Eventually, after running for a little bit, I get swept in with the cluster into the biology room. The teacher, who had her lunch rudely interrupted, was waving for kids to come inside, and after the class filled up, she shut the door completely. Then she yanks down the blinds, kills the lights, then shoves a rolling cabinet against the door handle. She whispers to all the students, "Get to the back wall, away from the windows. Phones silent." She sits beside the door, breathing in through her nose and out through her mouth slowly. But I always wondered why in these situations, we're supposed to remain quiet and act like no one was in the room. Like, you don't think the person causing all this chaos has literally practiced these drills before too? We're pretty much just playing hide and seek at this point. But anyways, here we are, probably 40 kids, just sitting silently in this room, knowing that right outside that door, there is someone with a gun. It didn't take long before our group chats are popping off while we're waiting. Texts are coming in from a bunch of different people like, "Did y'all make it out? What class is everybody in? Who had the gun? I heard shots fired." This wasn't one of those lockdowns where you're a little bit on edge, but at the same time, it's kind of funny because you think nothing serious is actually gonna happen. No, because we knew this one was real. We saw the weapon, so my hands are shaking nervously, probably partially due to the fact that I was having an allergic reaction from touching the cafeteria food, but mainly because someone brought a gun to school. In the hallways, we can still hear chaos happening out there with people trying to find classrooms to go into. You hear pounding feet, doors slamming, teachers yelling, and after a couple minutes of the chaos, the school went completely silent. Now, everyone was hiding, and our group chat pings again. I can see into the parking lot. There's cop cars arriving. Once I heard that, I knew the situation was officially serious. After sitting in dark silence for probably 10 minutes, we heard the first noise from outside that we've heard in a while. Footsteps slowly walking towards our door. They stop, and then we hear keys jingle. We can see the shadow of someone coming from underneath the door, and every student inhales the same breath. And that's when we hear it. The handle turns, but the lock holds. So after trying the door a couple times, whoever was attempting to open it walks away. We finally all exhale, but not without being confused. Because who was that? Was it the student with the gun? Was it someone checking on us? A police officer? No one knew, but we sure weren't going to open that door to find out. The PA clicks again, and the vice principal speaks in a monotone voice going, "All rooms remain in lockdown. Do not open your doors." Someone trying to open that door made everyone way more on edge. In the midst of everyone being super nervous, about 3 feet away from me, a kid throws up. I told y'all that cafeteria food was no good. Or he was just nervous. But the teacher slides over to him, gives him a bag, and tells him to just breathe. So now, the room smelled bad, and we were stuck here with no answers. But little did we know, this wasn't even close to the worst thing that would happen that day. Because after a few more minutes of waiting, rumors started spreading about the situation. And the craziest one that was going around was that some people saw 2 guns get pulled out. I got another text from the group chat saying that the person who brought this gun was planning on doing this for days. I wasn't sure what to believe, and we weren't getting any actual answers. But after a couple more minutes, the sounds of keys jangled at our door again. This time, the person on the other side of the door spoke. Mrs. Klein? That was the name of the teacher. But after the voice from outside says that, the teacher goes toward the door, peeks through an opening of the window to see who it is, and it's one of the staff members of the school. So she says, yes, and gets a response back saying, stay secured. We'll be giving new orders soon. What did that mean? I had no idea. But we would get our answers a few minutes later when the PA clicks again. Law enforcement is on site. Rooms will be addressed by name. Do not self-evacuate. This didn't sound like a very good plan to me, because wouldn't the person with the gun hear these announcements too? Like, what if you just said, room 324, please evacuate, and the dude with the gun is just spawn camping right outside the door? But whatever. They were the adults. I guess they knew what they were doing more than us. Although, I don't even know if that's true, because one time, a kid broke his arm after falling off the swings, and they literally just gave him an ice pack. Like, you could literally see his bone poking through, and they gave him an ice pack. So they might not all be the smartest bunch. But regardless, we listened to their directions. Minutes felt like hours waiting for our room to get called. One kid whispers, oh, my foot's asleep. Someone whispers back, you better wake it up, because we're gonna have to run pretty soon. Run? Then I get another text from my friends, and find out what the plan was. One by one, they were moving the people inside classrooms into larger, supervised areas, like the gymnasiums. Because remember, this chaos started at lunch, so everyone just ran into the first place they could find to escape. We weren't all in our actual classrooms, so none of us were organized. But moving into a pretty big place like the gym also seemed like a bad idea to me. Cause like, if we're all in this one place, and there's a person with a gun, wouldn't it be way easier to get all of us if we're sitting in the exact same spot? But once again, they're the adults. I'll just trust what they say. But after a little more waiting, someone comes up to our door again, and we hear keys jingling again. But this time, you can hear the key put into the handle and unlock the door. All of us are holding our breaths, wondering if the last meal we were about to eat before passing away was dry-aged chicken nuggets. And then the door opens. And who do we see? One of the ladies that works in the office. Everyone exhales, and she calmly tells us to form a line and follow her. Once we all step outside the classroom, the hallway is silent. Not one other kid is outside of a classroom. But what we do see is a police officer. I don't know if that was reassuring or worrying, because it just made the situation feel way more serious. The lady funnels us into the gym, and once we get inside, half the bleachers are already filled with other students. They're still advising everyone to be as quiet as possible, as if that was going to do anything. But we find our seats in the bleachers, and once again, everyone's whispering what they know about the situation. After hearing a couple kids' stories, it sounded like the general theory of what was going on was the student pulled out the gun, everyone scrammed, and the last thing anyone saw that guy do was point the weapon at the kid he was trying to fight. No one had any details about what happened after that. But little did we know, something way crazier was happening in that school in that very moment with the person who brought a gun. And you'll never believe what actually happened. But as everyone is giving their conspiracies about the situation, there's a mic in the middle of the basketball court, and it turns on, and the vice principal starts talking. Attention all students. We will remain in lockdown while we complete all our procedures. Please stay seated. It's very important that you don't leave this room. I thought that was weird, because the way she said that made it sound like the person with the gun was still out there on the loose. And they were basically just trying to protect us by keeping us all in the room together. As we're all waiting in the gym, a couple of faculty members start asking students questions. It sounded like the same thing was asked to everyone. They'd go to a row of students and ask, were any of you near the cafeteria incident? If we said yes, they'd ask if we saw the item the person had in their hand. But the next question was really weird to me, because then they would say, do you know where it went? That was the question where I got super confused as to what was going on. Why were they asking us where the weapon went? Did they not know? Were they looking for it? Were we still in danger? Now, I didn't feel safe once again. But we would later get the answer to all these questions. A couple minutes later, on the other side of the gym, we see two police officers enter through the doors with a clear bag in their hand. After looking a little closer at it, we were able to see a backpack was in it. While we were wondering why a police officer would have a backpack in a bag, it hit me. That was the same backpack I saw the student pull a gun out of. So what did this all mean? Did they find the student? Is he in custody? Well, if that was the case, surely they would have let us out by now. And I'm no detective, but I'm pretty sure they would not have been asking us where the weapon went if they had it. All of us students are left in the gymnasium wondering the answer to these questions. But after a few more minutes of waiting, finally, the principal comes to the mic for the first time. The room hushes altogether because our principal meant business. So we knew if she was talking, it meant we should listen. And then she goes, "Thank you guys for remaining calm in this situation. Here is what we can share. A student displayed an item that resembled a firearm. We are continuing our process in making sure that everyone is in a safe area. So please remain seated." Do you know what this speech sounded like to me? It sounded like they have no idea where this guy is at. And I wasn't the only one who thought that. So after the principal got done talking, everyone was even more on edge now. Once again, after sitting around doing absolutely nothing in the gym besides looking like fresh bait, people all start whispering to each other around the same time. And suddenly, there was a new rumor going around all the students. What was the rumor? I don't know how it started, but people were whispering that friends of the student who brought the gun were saying that he was planning on doing this for a while. What did that mean? This may have been planned. But that wasn't all, because there was one other thing they were saying. He had a friend with him. No one knew whether to believe this or not, but the reality of the situation became a lot more clear just a little bit later. And it became obvious what the adults weren't saying. They haven't caught the student yet. And that was pretty much confirmed when we heard one of the police officers' radios slip up, because we could hear a voice coming through it saying, "Suspect is still thought to be on the premises. Be advised." That was probably the worst thing we could have heard, knowing he was still on the loose while we were all packed like sardines in the same spot. As we're all freaking out, the principal, who was basically just doing quality control the whole time, making sure all the students tried to remain calm, suddenly puts her walkie-talkie to her ear. And I don't know what they said to her, but it must have been bad, because immediately her face drops and she starts running towards the double doors and bursts through to outside. She's outside for probably 5 minutes before coming back in with a completely different look on her face. Just a look of absolute shock. She walks back up toward the mic, clearly getting ready to say something, but none of us had any idea what was about to come out of her mouth after what she just did. Then she goes, "Thank you guys for all your cooperation. We can confirm we've caught one of the students. Law enforcement has taken them into custody. We're still continuing our process, so please remain in place." Wait. Did she just say one of the students? Meaning there's multiple suspects? And also, was this the reason they were asking about if anyone knew where the weapon was? This changed the whole scenario. Everyone was whispering again to each other about what they thought was happening. Now, when this whole cafeteria fiasco happened, I only saw one person with a weapon. So I was asking around to see if anyone had any idea why they were saying they only caught one of the students. Because when the first student whipped out their weapon, and I think most of the school, immediately just ran off without trying to watch the rest of the show. So I wasn't sure. There could have been another student that had a weapon. But what is this? The school from South Park? Why do we have so many people bringing guns to school all of a sudden? It's starting to just feel like a GTA server up in math class now. It felt like no one had an actual good answer for why the principal said they only caught one of the suspects. As I'm sitting there, my brain tries to help by replaying the cafeteria situation over and over again. The reach into his backpack, the pointing of it. Did I miss anything? Was there another person that pulled something out? It was all a blur when I tried playing it back. And the only thing I could remember is hurdling a kid like Saquon Barkley as I'm trying to get out of there. So we're still in there, waiting and waiting. And nothing is getting resolved. The principal is still pacing around, looking like her job was on the line, which it probably was, when a cop starts walking over to her. She looks at him, obviously hoping for some good news for the first time today, and the cop whispers something in her ear. I was expecting her reaction to whatever the cop said to be one of two things, either extreme sadness or extreme relief. But instead, she just looked confused. So what could the cop possibly have told her? Well, we would get our answer about a minute later when she walks over to the mic once again. By this point, everyone knew to go completely silent whenever she got close to that thing. She opens her mouth and goes, "Students, we can confirm that the person with the weapon is no longer on school property. But the situation is still ongoing, so we need you to remain inside." Okay, so the person with the weapon isn't on school property anymore, but why didn't they say they've caught or detained them yet. Something fishy was going on here that she wasn't telling us, and we would get the truth to it just a little bit later. Because then, another cop came walking through the door with an evidence bag in his hand. What's inside this bag? A scuff, blacked, pistol-shaped object. Everyone is silent, locked in like a mom watching her favorite soap opera, just looking at the cop with the weapon in the bag. This must have meant they took care of the situation, right? They got the weapon, everyone's safe, we can all go home now and get a free week off of school for emotional damage. Well, I wish that's what happened, but it wasn't over yet, because we hadn't been released from the gym. So we knew it wasn't safe outside yet. And then in the moment we're all waiting for, just as my butt is getting so sore that I thought it was gonna stick to the bleachers, the principal hops on the mic and says what we've all wanted to hear. Students, both suspects have been caught and taken into custody. I want you to know that you're all safe and there's nothing to worry about. We will start dismissing you all soon. So everyone lets out a big exhale, knowing the situation had finally been resolved. But this didn't mean it was over, because of two things. Why would the cop ask if we knew where the weapon went? And why did the principal say that they only caught one of the suspects a couple minutes ago? Well, after the whole situation finished, and we finally got the truth about what actually happened, here's exactly how it all went down. So the student we all saw pull out the weapon in the cafeteria was not the one that the cops were looking for. Why? Well, because when the person who actually had the weapon saw everyone freaking out and running away, he realized what he just did and how serious of a situation this just became. So in a panic, he gave the weapon to his friend and told him to go hide it. A bunch of staff members saw this person with the gun, so they assumed that this was the one who pulled it out originally. The student is running around with the gun until he finds a good place to hide it, which ended up being in a bathroom toilet. And he gets caught by law enforcement a little bit later. That was when the principal announced that they caught one of the suspects. So where does this leave the student who originally pulled out the weapon? Well, after he realized how big he just messed up, he ran away too. But he didn't just run off to a classroom. No, he ran to the McDonald's down the street from our school that I went to a lot. But he basically just stayed inside there, hoping the situation would get resolved. And after a couple hours, the police found him there and caught him. So the whole time they were searching around the school, they had no idea if he was still on campus or not. And when they finally found him, that's when they released all of us students. But you know what makes this whole situation ridiculous? The weapon the student brought was a BB gun, not a real one. And he just pulled it out because he was trying to intimidate the guy that just embarrassed him. So was he actually planning to do something bad with that thing? No, but it didn't stop him from getting expelled. But the worst part about this whole situation was after this happened, we still had to go to our next class.